Every single Monday, we like to take a look at some of the changes in the AP Top 25 poll. We like to call it Poll Assassin. Goodbye, Utah. Goodbye, Oklahoma. And hello, finally, Army and Navy. That's right. Our Service Academy rivals have made an appearance in the AP Top 25 poll. Army moving in to number 23 after a thrashing of UAB. Navy didn't even have to set sail. And they were able to just scoot on up as the AP voters have decided to shuffle things around a little bit. Disappointed Vanderbilt wasn't able to get in there ahead of Michigan. I think Vanderbilt's got better wins than the Michigan Wolverines do. But, you know, who's to say? Everyone's got their own flavor. They are just 16 voting points away from breaking into the top 25. Notable movement within the top 25. Ole Miss takes a 9-spot drop all the way down from inside the top 10 to number 18 after the loss to LSU. And LSU's up in the top 10, now checking in at number 8. We go Texas holds on to 1 as we predicted on Saturday night. 56 first place votes. 6 first place votes going to the Oregon Ducks. Penn State at 3, Ohio State at 4. Tom, anything from the AP Top 25 poll stand out to you?
There's one ballot that stands out to me.
Oh, yes, there is.
Call them out.
Are we talking about the same one?
I don't know. We'll find out. There's just one I would like to hear an explanation for it, because Oregon got 6 first place votes, and then it got a whole, I can't do the math in my head real quick. It got a whole lot of second place votes. It got 1 third place vote from Pete Yanity of WSPA in Spartanburg, South Carolina. He loves 2 things: his wonderful family and covering sports. And he also loves Penn State, because he's got Penn State at number 2, which I could, if you think Texas is number 3, even then I'd still be like, I don't agree with it. But I don't know what you've done or seen from Penn State to put them above Oregon after Oregon just beat Ohio State. Like, Penn State's best win right now is Illinois, which I know that is the huge win because Illinois is incredible, the best team in the country. But how you can look at how Penn State has played compared to how Oregon has played, and then compare their resumes, and then have Penn State ahead of Oregon, I am not quite sure. So I'd like to see if the 3 of you have any kind of explanation you think for it.
Not really. I mean, that's yeah.
Did he make a mistake? Like, is he just hate Oregon? Like, is he like an Adidas guy and he just has a death wish against Nike and he wants nothing to do with it? I don't understand what's going on here.
You'd have to go back and say they struggled against Idaho in week 1. I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's
because I mean, even Penn State had the Bowling Green game, which was down.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is, other than you just say, I think they're better. That's always the out, you know. But even that, if they squared off, I think Oregon would be the favorite.
I know Oregon would be the favorite. Yeah, I mean, like, let those 2 teams play on a neutral. Oregon would be the betting favorite over Penn State. Oregon's, I don't have a lot of, I don't have a lot there. But anything stand out to you?
So I think about this, right? And who wins and loses games has to matter. But at the same time, like, USC is unranked, and I'm not arguing that they should be above LSU, because they shouldn't, because the wins and losses do have to matter. But if you kind of think about this, right, they've both played a bunch of really, really close games against a challenging schedule. And USC is like, they're just kind of -2 on some coin flips. But like, the one coin flip they actually won was a game they beat LSU. I just don't think there's like that big of a gap. Like, LSU 8, USC unranked. If these teams played tomorrow, I mean, what's the spread? Like a field goal, maybe 4? Like, it's not a touchdown. And we already saw this game happen once this year. Now, USC's lost some players. Obviously, LSU has as well. We can debate if Perkins actually helped the defense by going out, because they played pretty damn good against Ole Miss, I thought, without him. It just kind of, it shows the absurdity of the polling process at times. I mean, like, they've both played a really challenging schedule. They've both played a bunch of like close games. I mean, the South Carolina win is basically the same to me as like losing like close at Minnesota. You know, like, kind of 2 teams that are somewhere between like 30 and 45-ish in your power ratings. It goes down to the wire. Cool. So I don't know. I don't have a problem with it, but it just kind of struck me as like, wait a second. USC beat this team. They've been like both just played a bunch of coin flips since.
I think it's really tough to have in this on October the 13th. It is very tough which is when the ballots were turned in. It's really tough to put a 3-loss team in your top 25.
I'm not arguing for it. I'm just saying,
right. But I think that's like you want to know how it happens. It happens when even if you're losing coin flips, you are on the losing end of those coin flips. You know, so I think that a 1-3 start to Big Ten play makes that week 1 result like even further from the voters' mind. In the same way that getting like choked out by Georgia in week 1 is slipping further away from the voters' minds when it comes to what they're doing with Clemson. So, those week 1 non-conference results, I think as you start to build out more of a body of work and start to play competitive teams on a sort of week in, week out basis, like there's not a USC played really well to get that game to overtime, but it's another example of coming on like the opposite end of a coin flip.
Okay, so that was question. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say this. I think we know your answer, but here's a good question from Brandon in the chat. Who's the most fraudulent team in the top 10? I think we know Buds.
LSU.
Ooh.
Who do you say?
Is it Georgia?
What are we defining fraudulent? What is the fraud? What is the fraud being committed here? Is it that they're really not a top 10 caliber team? Like, you're not playing like a top 10 team?
Oh no, it's as loose as possible. In the words of Tony Barnhart, he said he was like, college football, like we like things, and he paused. He goes, flexible.
I would say, don't you think fraudulent is the team least likely to finish the season in the top 10? That's how I would determine it. And that's how I would look at it, which isn't how I do it because I'm not projecting. But I would say that's the most fraudulent. Like, there's no way they'll be there at the end of the season.
Then I would take it
LSU.
Yeah, LSU, especially right now. You look at that team and the way I could see there being 3 losses at the end of the year for sure. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. But from a power rating standpoint, when I look at the top 10 teams right now, is Iowa State favored against any of them?
No.
Then I think. I like Iowa State. They're a good team, but it's hard to imagine they're going to stick around in the top 10.
Who else or who in the top 25 period has 2 wins over current top 25 teams? And 0 losses.
Lost one.
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
0 losses.
Oh, but 0 losses.
Oh, BYU?
BYU is about 5 spots too low. They have wins over SMU and Kansas State, both current top 25 teams. And this is one of the things that bothers me about perception and brand bias that goes in there. Like we were just talking about LSU. And maybe if they did play, you'd probably see LSU favored in that one. But I think BYU, you have to do twice as much as everybody else in front of you. And I was, Indiana is an example, but they don't have quite the resume that BYU does. They've kind of played some teams that aren't in the top 25. They've been dominant and they've been awesome. And if you did, comparative, you did head to head and whose wins more impressive, best win is more impressive. There's some other teams on here that you could go and you could say Indiana's underranked too, but they just have to prove it twice as long. And it bothers me every time.
I want BYU in the playoff so bad. We all have our biases, but you will have me percentages level more excited about the 12-team playoff if BYU makes the 12-team playoff. So I'm glad that I can actually come honest with this. Like, that is my bias. I just think it would be sweet if BYU was in the playoff. There's going to be a feature running on CBSSports.com later this week, part of our mid-season package, where we get a second chance to game it all out. And you're damn right I put BYU in that playoff because I am speaking this thing into existence. They might need like pick sixes in every single game from here on out. But you know what? I think they can do it.
But like for programs that never can get there, like remember when Mississippi State was number 1? Like they'll always, I just saw Dan Mullen say something about that. He's like, we were 10 years ago, we came out ranked number 1. And like, they were never a legit national title contender, and they got that. And Ole Miss was 3. And like BYU hasn't been in this territory in a long time, and here they are. Like, and if they lose, then drop them as 15 spots, whatever you want to do. I just feel like they deserve to be better. The other one I looked at, are you at all surprised Ohio State is ahead of Georgia?
No.
Are you ready to have your brain broken? At the CBS Sports 134, Ohio State's ahead of Penn State. Ohio State 3, Penn State 4. Average ranking on all the ballots across CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports voters, average ranking Ohio State 4.0, Penn State 4.1. So not only is Ohio State finishing just ahead of Penn State, but their average ranking is 4th, meaning that you've got like multiple teams that are up there ahead of those two.
Yeah, Ohio State was still 3rd on my ballot.
So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I hand in that,
So
based
we're
off
just
my
forgetting
ratings.
about Georgia's win against Clemson, which looks better and better and better.
You don't want to know where Georgia is on my ballot then.
I mean,
It's ahead of Clemson, I'll give you that.
I mean, I had to shove Georgia down. I had to shove Georgia to the side. I mean, I just had to push them. Like that was Mississippi State backup quarterback moving the ball on you is concerning.
That is true.
My ballot for the CBS 134 is not opinion based. It's just my ratings that are, that I do that are based on actual games and don't have any bias of preseason X, blah, blah, blah. Georgia's 15th on mine. Clemson's 16th. Like Georgia has not been dominant. It's been good, but it has not been dominant.
Georgia haters. Don't let us become a
who's 2?
Podcast.
Texas is 1. You know who's number 2? Indiana.
There you go.
Okay.
Now we're talking.
Let's go. Let's
I got
go.
no pushback against that.
All right.
So this is based only on games played so far this year. Then.
Yep. And the strength of schedule is based on the teams in the actual rating system. It's not based on anything outside of it. So that's how I do all 134. I'm not going to sit there and just try to be like, who do I think's the 42nd best team and who's the 43rd?
Hey, I do. Okay. But I stop after 50. I do not think about the 74th versus the 75th, but I feel like I can do top 50.